Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, of course, and most importantly, enable notifications to receive all the updates of these match recaps and other content on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on social media on Twitter and Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. And tomorrow you listen to the podcast on Spotify or Google Podcasts or any other platform. Let's get into it, guys. We're coming after the Coppa Italia quarterfinal between Inter Milan and AC Milan, and what a game it was for the right and the wrong reasons, unfortunately. But let's get first to the sort of tactical aspect of the things. Both teams making changes from usual. Milan with more changes than usual, I think, with the return of Romagnoli, with Tonali being benched, Ben Nasser being injured, of course, relying on Meite and Kessie in the midfield, Diaz starting, Salamakis returning to the starting lineup after a while, alongside Leao, and Ibrahimovic with Dalot starting on the right. Tarujano also was in the place of Donnarumma, and the first half was pretty decent. Again, the first half I think was pretty balanced between the two sides. Inter tried a couple of attempts, Milan had a couple of, some opportunities really, but not exactly something that would cause danger for Inter, until they scored the early goal by Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the midway point through the first half. It really looked, that Milan could sit on their lead because Inter dominated the game, considering that they made also a couple of changes. Certainly not starting with the likes of Achraf Hakimi and Ashley Young was pretty understandable from Conte to reserve them for the second half and try to divide the effort on both halves of the game. Also not starting with Lautaro Martinez, but certainly the turning point wasn't a goal, wasn't a penalty. It was the elephant in the room, probably quite literally, the fight between Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Romelu Lukaku that sparkled towards the end of the latter part of the first half. Really, there was some insult thrown for both of them. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was picked up that he said to Lukaku, "You little donkey," and then of course they insulted each other's mothers and all of that, which it doesn't go well in football when you insult another player's mother. So they had a bit of a scuffle. I mean, not a bit of a scuffle, it was a big scuffle really. Like, players were legit holding Lukaku back from going and hitting Ibrahimovic. They butted heads and they almost came to blows, but the players separated them and all of that, and it was funny. I mean, Conte was chuckling at the end of the first half because of that, really. Maybe he would love that from his players anyway. That, I think, was the moment that turned the game around, because Ibrahimovic picked a first yellow card that would prove to be very, very, very crucial in the second half. For a technical foul in the midfield on Kolarov, he picks up a second yellow card. Already Inter started the second half strong and pressing, making the early changes, of course, bringing in Martinez already for even Perisic. So it was clear that Conte realised that this game is in his hands and he can win it, so he brought on the big weapons and the big guns in the second half. Again, I mentioned brought on Lautaro Martinez, brought on Achraf Hakimi as well, instead of Matteo Darmian, and brought on the full starting lineup from the bench, in Darmian, in Martinez, in Ashley Young as well. He got in Christian Eriksen by the end. I mean, he was surprisingly offensive, I think, and obviously because AC Milan were one man down, they couldn't muster anything whatsoever in the second half. They were completely routed. Handanovic has nothing to do. The defense of Inter Milan pretty much wasn't mentioned in the second half. It was Inter having a lot of chances, and I think they owed probably the fact that the score is only 2-1 for their goalkeeper. Tarujano made a couple of incredible and important saves later on in the second half to Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku, denying them both goals before stoppage time, which was very long because of the VAR calling a penalty, of course, for Inter in the 71st minute, from which they equalised thanks to Romelu Lukaku. Also, the referee was injured, the red card for Ibrahimovic. There was a couple of injuries as well and substitutions, so it was 10 minutes of stoppage time. It was really, really long, and in the end of that stoppage time, in the 97th minute, it was almost an extra time period, really. Christian Eriksen proving his worth really for Conte. I mean, probably this is the moment that is going to be sparking his sort of run at Inter. Maybe, we don't know, we'll see. But he, of course, makes the difference from a very close range free kick. 2-1 for Inter late on, breaking the hearts of AC Milan, who really did well to hold on to the draw pretty much, because they couldn't resist the attacks from Inter in the end. 2 set pieces it was that separated them from the game that made Inter Milan go through to the semi-final, deservedly, to be fair. No shade whatsoever on their qualification and on their win, because they took advantage of the fact that AC Milan were 1 man down, and, you know, being 10 men against Inter Milan and against those kinds of players who love spaces, it certainly forced Milan to regress to the back. They were defending with 9 people behind the ball, and they gave all the pitch to Inter to rule through and to just pass the ball around. I mean, it's telling that the only shot on goal for AC Milan is the one they scored. That is how, not bad, that is how inefficient they were in this game overall. Inter were dominant, surprisingly dominant. It was, again, a very surprising domination for Inter in the derby. This is a more of a psychological blow to AC Milan's aspirations for the title, because they meet in 3 weeks' time, which is going to be even more deciding of a derby than this one, if you ask me, of course. You know, a deserved win for Inter. The game has been set after the send-off of Zlatan Ibrahimovic being red-carded in the second half. The game, I think, was done and dusted there, and of course, Inter Milan go through, they win the derby, they have an advantage, an ascendancy over AC Milan heading into the league derby, and certainly this is going to boost the momentum of Inter and Conte, players who, Conte, you know, managed the game really well and got what he wanted, and certainly some of the circumstances and luck maybe served him well in this game. That's all for me. Like, share, comment on this video, what do you think about the whole game, subscribe to the channel most importantly, and enable notifications to receive all the updates. Pitch Side Pod on Instagram, SouthPSP on Twitter, follow me there, and you can listen to more of the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. I was the HOD, the PSP, and until the next time, you'll see me soon.